Assalamualaikum and a very good day everyone. Welcome to yet another session of Kelantan E-Class. I am teacher Adlina and today I am going to guide you on how to write a good introduction and conclusion for your essays. Alright? But before we go further into the topic, there are some goals that I hope you will be able to know by the end of this lesson. The first one is for you to identify the structures of good introductory and concluding paragraphs. The second goal is for you to be able to use hooks in writing an introduction. The third one is that you will know how to write a thesis statement. And finally, the last objective is that you will know how to plan and write a well-structured introduction and conclusion. Is that clear? Let's move on. Okay, I'm sure you're all very familiar with this outline by now, right? So this is what it looks like. Your essay, a general outline of an essay. Usually a composition consists of 5 paragraphs. And out of these 5 paragraphs, there are 3 main sections. The first paragraph is your introduction, and then you have 2 to 4 paragraphs of the body of your essay, the main ideas, the elaboration, your topic sentences, everything goes here. And then you have 1 final paragraph for conclusion. Okay, so usually when you are stuck or blanked out in the middle of writing an essay, it's not because you don't have the main ideas to write. It's usually because you don't know where to start and you don't know where to end your essay. Is that right? So that's why for today's session, we are going to look exclusively at the introduction and the conclusion. We're not going to touch on the body paragraphs. Get your paper, pen, and highlighters ready, okay? Now, what makes a good introduction? An introduction, when it's very good and well structured, has the ability to grab the reader's attention and tell them exactly what the essay is about. This means that your readers don't have to keep looking to know what you're writing about, okay? Then, a good introduction will also be able to set a positive first impression about the quality of your essay. By looking at your first paragraph, this is where the readers will gauge the quality of your essay, your use of language, the vocabulary that you use, and the way you structure your sentences. And depending on how well you structure your introduction, it can also help sustain your readers' interest, whether or not they will keep reading until the end of your paragraphs. And of course, what I think is the most important point here is that a good introduction helps ground you, the writer, to the topic. For example, if you are lost in the middle of writing your essay, you are perhaps on the 3rd or 4th paragraph, you are lost there. What am I writing about? Always refer back to your introduction, look at your sentences so that you can check whether or not you have run out of the question. Okay? Okay, so next, for the purpose of today's lesson, we will use this sample question to guide us in writing our introduction and conclusion. Okay, let's read it together. Some teenagers complain that life as a student is very stressful. Discuss the reasons why they might say this and suggest what they can do to handle their stress. Okay, students, I hope you have your pen, papers, and highlighters ready, because the first thing that you should do when you touch upon a question is to highlight the key points, like this. Okay, so who is the focus of this topic? The teenagers, the one in purple there. The teenagers is your focus. What did they do? They complain. What did they complain about? That their life as a student is very stressful. So you have the keywords teenagers and stressful. So now you should know that our topic is stress among teenagers. But is that all? Read on. Discuss the reasons. That's your next focus, the reasons. You have to give the causes. What might be causing this stress? And then, what they can do to handle their stress. And that would be your focus number 2. So if you missed out one of these, it might pull down the mark of your essay. You don't want to do that. Okay, let's move on. All right, let's have a little exercise. Introduction 1. Some teenagers complain that life as a student is very stressful. Sounds familiar, right? There are many reasons why they might say this, and there are many things they can do to handle their stress. Why are there so many yellows and green on the screen? Because this paragraph is too similar to the question. It's like you are just copying down the question into your paragraph. It's also too short for an introductory paragraph. Remember that for a good essay, your paragraph has to be more or less the same length. Alright, but is this a paragraph? Yes, it still counts as one. But is it a good one? Not really. You can do better. Alright, now let us read another introduction. Nowadays, teenagers often complain on social media that life as a student is very stressful. This already sounds a little bit better than the first one, because you have extra details there where the students complain on social media. When they complain. Nowadays. How often do they complain? Often. And then you have another sentence there after the first sentence. Too much stress is not good for them. This one is definitely a new information that does not come from the question, which is good. They need to know why they are stressed and the ways to handle their stress. Okay, so is this a good paragraph? It can definitely be improved, but is it better than the first one? Most definitely. Why does it have to be improved? Because it is still a little too short for a continuous writing. Alright, now students, to make our introduction better, we need to look at the structure. A well-structured introduction consists of 3 parts. The first one is the hook. The second one is the context. And the last one is the thesis statement. First, what you're going to do is you're going to introduce your topic using a hook. A hook is an attention getter, a broad opening statement, and then you introduce the context, add some background details to it, and finally tell the reader what your essay is going to be about with your thesis statement. Okay, so now let's look at the first part, which is the hook. So what is a hook? A hook, not the one that you use to catch this fish. A hook is an opening statement in an essay that attempts to grab the reader's attention so that they are interested to continue reading the essay. You don't just simply go into the main ideas. There must be something that can make your readers wonder. Alright, so what kind of hooks can you use? Let's move on. So here are some examples of writing hooks that you can use in your writing. Of course, there are many more out there, but today I think it is enough to just look at this 6. Okay, we are still referring to the same question, teenagers and stress, reasons they are stressed, and how to handle their stress. The first hook that you can use is a definition, the simplest, the oldest type of hook that you can use. Okay, since you know that the topic is stress, so give a definition. What is stress? Stress can be defined as any type of change that causes physical, emotional, or psychological strain. That's for definition. Then you can also use an anecdote to begin your essay. An anecdote is a short story. It could be about you yourself or about someone else. For example, let's read this anecdote. Remember, this is still about stress. Alia, the best student in her school, admits that sometimes she wants to throw away her books and do nothing but sleep all day. Does she sound stressed? Yes. The third type of hook that you can use in your writing is statistics. You can introduce figures, you can introduce percentages from surveys or interviews. For example, this one here. According to the Education Ministry's Healthy Mind program, 1 in 10 students aged between 13 to 17 are suffering from stress. Okay, does it sound intriguing? Yes. Wow, so many stressed teens. Moving on. The fourth type here is an analogy. When you introduce your essay with an analogy, you introduce some sort of comparison. You compare the stress of being a student at school to a life somewhere else. For example, here the analogy used is prison. School is like a prison and students are its prisoners. Sounds dramatic and bad. And can it capture your reader's attention? Maybe. Yes, definitely. Alright. Another type of hook that you can use is by introducing rhetorical question. For example here, what makes today's teenagers more stressed than in the past? A rhetorical question does not need an actual answer. It's just there to serve as something to pique the reader's mind, to make them wonder, to lead them into the topic of stress. When writing a rhetorical question, try not to use questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no. Okay, and the last hook here, you can also use headlines in your introduction. Too many teens suffering from stress. More children and teens are stressed out, wrote the Star and NST. Just the headlines, and then you can add some more details later. Alright, so I hope you can still follow. These are the writing hooks, the first part of your introduction. Let's move on to the second part of the introduction, which is the context. Okay, context provide additional background information when you introduce the topic of your essay. It could be, you could be writing about what affects the topic, why is the topic important, what are its effects on health, social, culture, environment, and what if the topic is not addressed. You introduce some sort of what if scenario in your background information. Why is context important? Because these additional details that you add to your introduction can make your readers understand and relate to the issue better. Always, when you can relate to an issue, you will feel like you want to know more about it. Okay, that's for the context. Let's try putting together our hook and the context. Okay, the hook that we take here is from the statistics. The 13 to 17, 10 students, 1 in 10 students aged 13 to 17 are suffering from stress. Okay, so that's your hook. We ease slowly, we introduce some context, we add details. We tell our readers why it's important for us to look at this issue together. Okay, so these teenagers often complain on social media that life as a student is incredibly stressful, both at school and at home. If this issue is not properly addressed, it can lead to a serious health problem, such as sleeping disorders and depression. So the details added here, where do the teenagers feel stressed? At school and at home. What happens if this issue is not discussed? It will lead to a more serious problem. What are some effects of stress, sleeping disorders, and depression? Very clear cut that we are talking about stress, and the stress that we are talking about is among teenagers. Okay, now that we finished the hook, we finished the context, we look at the thesis statement, which is a carefully constructed sentence at the end of the introductory paragraph. This is the last sentence of your introduction. It informs your readers of the main focus of your essay. What is the content of the essay? Are you talking about reasons? Are you going to talk about the causes? Are you going to talk about the ways to relieve stress? What is its purpose? This is where you introduce your focus, the thesis statement. And a thesis statement is usually only one sentence. You don't break it into several sentences. Now, how do we do this? Okay, so what you see here are thesis statements taken from Introduction 1, Introduction 2, and a new thesis statement that we refined from the first and the second. Let's look at the first one. This is directly lifted from the question. There are many reasons why they might say this, and there are many things they can do to handle their stress. This is heavily lifted, so we make it better by rephrasing to fit the context. And so now it becomes they need to know why they might be stressed and the ways to handle their stress. We refine this, we add a transition word there, therefore, and then we introduce our specific focus that is meaningful. We also rephrase it to fit our context. Now it reads better. Therefore, there is a need to explore the possible causes of stress among teenagers and the ways to manage it well. Alright. Now we put together all three parts to form a complete introduction: the hook, the context, and the thesis. The hook is there? Yes. The context is there? Yes. The thesis statement? Yes. Do we have both of the focus? Explore the possible causes of stress among teenagers? Yes. The causes are there, and the ways to manage it is also there. So this is our introductory paragraph that satisfies all the three parts of the structure. Alright, still with me? Let's move on to the next one. We are moving towards the conclusion. Now that we know what makes a good introduction, what about what makes a good conclusion? A good conclusion leaves an impression on the readers. It makes them go, wow, I've read something good. It also gives the essay a sense of completeness. There's no more loose ends. You have answered all possible questions in this essay. It usually starts with a transition word that indicates that this is the final paragraph of the essay. No more paragraph after this. Full stop. You can use in conclusion, you can use to summarize, you can use in summary, for example. And then, lastly, a good conclusion will also give the readers something to think about, to consider after they have finished reading your essay. That is how good your essay is to them. It makes them wonder. It makes them want to take action. Okay, so just like your introduction, the structure of a conclusion also consists of three parts. But it is easier for you to structure this because the information that you need already comes from your body paragraphs and your introduction. The first part is the topic restatement. You introduce your topic, you bring your readers back to the topic of your essay, remind them, you refer to the context part of your introduction to write this topic restatement. And then you restate your thesis statement using different words. Don't just copy it down directly. You have to rephrase. But be careful so that you do not introduce new ideas into the conclusion. If you do that, you will have to write a whole other paragraph for it. And the third part is the final statement, in which you write a final sentence to bring the essay to a definite close. Something impressive, something that can leave a lasting impression. You can make a call to actions or give your audience an advice. What can they do after this? Further actions. Okay. Alright, to begin your conclusion, you have to restate your topic. What we have here is taken from your context. Okay, these teenagers often complain on social media that life as a student is incredibly stressful, both at school and at home. If this issue is not properly addressed, it can lead to serious health problems such as sleeping disorders and depression. Remember, this is your context. So from the context, we restate it in our conclusion. We rephrase it into our own words again. Okay, so what? Now it becomes teenagers' complaints about their stressful student life should not be dismissed as mere whims, as their problems might worsen. Look at the ones in yellow. Look at the sentence highlighted in yellow. Have we addressed the teenagers, their complaints as a student, them being stressful? Yes, we have. If not properly addressed, and we use the word dismiss in our conclusion. Checked. And then it can lead to serious health problems. Rephrase to, their problems might worsen. Alright, so that's your restatement of the topic. Teenagers' complaints about their stressful student life should not be dismissed as mere whims, as their problems might worsen. Sweet and simple. You don't need to take all of the context. Just rephrase it. Next, you have to restate your thesis. Now for this one, you need to look at your thesis statement in your introduction. Your introduction says there is a need to explore the possible causes of stress among teenagers and the ways to manage it well. That was your thesis. So restate and rephrase it in your conclusion, as it is crucial to understand the reasons behind their stress so that the best actions can be taken to handle it. Try as best as possible to not use the same word, the same vocab that you have used before. Okay, now the final part of your conclusion is the final statement. This is where you make a call to action. Who should you call? Who should you advise? What should they do? And why must they do that? Give them the importance so that they know that they need to do this action, that these actions are important. Who? Parents maybe and teachers? Maybe even the society, the school, the counselors, or even the students or teenagers themselves. What should they do? Play a role in supporting the teenagers, work together to help the teenagers, or the students or teenagers themselves should seek help from people that they trust. Why? Why is it important? Why are these actions important? It's so that they can grow and develop into happy and healthy individuals. It's so that they are able to become good members of the society because they are the future of the nation, or so that they don't continue to suffer alone in silence. Sounds more dramatic that way. Okay, so you choose your who, you choose your what, you choose your why into a complete sentence, And finally, we will have a complete conclusion. So we add a transition word there in conclusion, and then restatement of our topic. Add your restatement of thesis there, put a transition before it. Since we mentioned that their stress should not be dismissed as mere whims, we introduce it instead. It is crucial to understand the reasons behind their stress so that the best actions can be taken. And finally, your call to action. I choose one here from our examples. Parents and teachers should play a role in supporting the teenagers so that they can grow and develop into happy and healthy individuals. So this is what your conclusion look like. Let's put together the introduction that we have written earlier and the conclusion. More or less, they are the same length. Remember that a good essay, for it to be a good essay, the length of your paragraph must be more or less similar. Your introduction cannot be this short, and then your body paragraph is this long, and suddenly your conclusion is again this short. It might pull down your marks, so be careful when writing your introduction, your body paragraphs, and your conclusion. All right. So, will the introduction and conclusion that we have covered today affect the type of essay that we write? Will it be affected? Say, if I write a descriptive essay, will it be different? Well, more or less, the guideline today can be applied to informative and argumentative essays, but not narrative, because usually narrative essays require you to be more creative, and it follows a different structure because you have a plot, not the general main ideas like this. Okay, I hope it's very clear there what you need to do for your introduction and conclusion. It seems we have reached the end of our session today. Thank you so much for being with me. I wish you a good day and see you next time. Thank you. Bye.